How to properly pour a foundation. Errors and tips. Imagine that your ideal home, into which you have invested years of dreams and all your savings, begins to slowly turn into ruins because of one unnoticeable crack in the base. This is not just a developer's nightmare, but a harsh reality for hundreds of people who neglected the rules of laying a foundation. Every millimeter of concrete and every rod of reinforcement carries the responsibility for the safety of your family and the durability of the entire structure. In the world of professional construction, the foundation is called the zero cycle, and it is precisely here that the greatest number of fatal mistakes are made, which are practically impossible to correct in the future. If you want your home to stand unshakably for many decades, you need to understand the physics and chemistry of the processes occurring deep underground. Today, we will dive into the subtleties of creating a flawless base, analyze typical mistakes of beginners, and learn the secrets of masters that allow for the erection of monumental structures on the most complex soils. Before the first shovel touches the ground, it is necessary to conduct a thorough study of what is hidden beneath its surface. Many developers make a huge mistake by relying on the experience of a neighbor who supposedly poured a regular strip foundation and knows no trouble. However, the soil structure can change radically even within one small plot of land. Geological surveys are the foundation upon which the entire project is built, and saving at this stage is equivalent to playing roulette with your own safety. A professional engineer must determine the groundwater level, the frost depth, and the bearing capacity of the soil to calculate the necessary support area. If you begin construction on heaving soil without taking its characteristics into account, winter frosts will simply push your house out of the ground, tearing concrete monoliths like paper. When the project is ready and all calculations are confirmed by specialists, the stage of marking the site begins, requiring surgical precision. An error of a few inches, centimeters, when laying out the axes can lead to the walls of the house being shifted relative to the foundation's center of gravity. Use only high-quality measuring instruments, such as laser levels and theodolites, to ensure perfect geometry of the corners. The rule of the Egyptian triangle with sides of 10, 13, and 16 feet, 3, 4, and 5 meters, will help you check the perpendicularity of the lines, but even here, maximum attentiveness is important. Remember that correcting the curvature of the foundation at the stage of laying the walls will be extremely expensive and technically difficult. Every rope stretched between the stakes must be rigidly fixed so that an accidental gust of wind or a worker's careless step does not knock off the settings. Earthworks are often perceived as a simple physical task, but there are pitfalls here as well. The depth of the trench or pit must strictly correspond to the project marks, and it is extremely important not to over-dig. If you accidentally removed more soil than required, under no circumstances fill it back in with loose earth, as this will create a zone of future subsidence. In such cases, it is necessary to use only sand with thorough layer-by-layer compaction, or fill the resulting void with lean concrete. The bottom of the trench must be perfectly level and cleared of any debris, tree roots, or organic remains that will rot over time and leave dangerous voids behind. Creating a proper sand and gravel cushion is the key to the even distribution of the load from the building onto the ground. Each layer of sand should not exceed 4 or 6 inches, 10 or 15 centimeters in thickness, while it must be abundantly doused with water and compacted with a vibrating plate to the state of a hard surface. You should literally feel the tool bounce off the ground without leaving deep marks on it. The gravel fraction on top of the sand serves as an excellent drainage layer, preventing the capillary rise of moisture to the concrete base. The use of geotextiles between the soil and the cushion will prevent the silting of the sand, preserving its drainage properties for many years. These are the little things that at first glance seem redundant, but they're exactly what determine whether your basement will be dry in 20 years. The formwork for the foundation should not just be a mold for concrete, but a powerful and unshakable structure capable of withstanding the colossal pressure of the liquid mass. The use of thin boards or low-quality plywood often leads to the rupture of the form at the most critical moment of pouring. All panels must be securely fastened together and external supports installed with a step of no more than 20 inches, 50 centimeters in step. The inner surface of the formwork should be smooth, for which it is often covered with thick polyethylene film. This will not only facilitate the subsequent dismantling of the timber, but also prevent the leakage of cement milk, which is the most important binding component of the concrete mix. Remember that the loss of even a small amount of this liquid significantly reduces the final strength grade of your foundation. Reinforcement represents the creation of the steel skeleton of the building, and here mistakes can become truly catastrophic. The main rule is that the rebar must work in tension, so it is placed in zones of maximum loads, usually the upper and lower parts of the foundation. Never use welding to connect the rods unless they have a special marking with the letter S, as thermal effects weaken the metal at the joints. Only tying with steel wire provides the necessary elasticity of the frame during natural soil deformations. It is also critically important to observe the protective layer of concrete, which is at least 2 inches, 5 centimeters, from the edge of the reinforcement to the external environment. If the metal comes into contact with the ground or the formwork, corrosion will begin to destroy the foundation from the inside in the very first year of operation. The choice of concrete grade and the method of its delivery determine the final quality of the entire work. It is categorically not recommended to mix concrete by hand in a concrete mixer for pouring large monolithic structures, as you will never achieve perfect homogeneity of the mixture. Order ready-mixed concrete from a plant with a good reputation, and be sure to demand quality certificates for each batch. The concrete grade should be no lower than 300 for private house construction, and in conditions of a harsh climate or high groundwater levels, it is worth choosing even higher indicators of frost resistance and water resistance. The acceptance of concrete must be carried out continuously to avoid the formation of cold joints, which become weak points in the structure and paths for moisture penetration. The pouring process requires the coordinated work of the entire team and the presence of special equipment, primarily a deep vibrator. This device removes the smallest air bubbles from the mixture, making the concrete as dense and strong as possible. Without thorough vibration, cavities and voids may remain inside the foundation, which significantly reduce its bearing capacity. However, it is also important not to overdo it, as too long an exposure to vibration can lead to segregation of the mixture, where heavy crushed stone settles to the bottom and light cement rises to the top. The optimal processing time for one point is only a few seconds until a cement sheen appears on the surface. After the pouring is completed, the work on the foundation does not end at all, as the critically important period of concrete maturation begins. In the first few days, the concrete needs special care, which consists of maintaining the optimal level of moisture and temperature. If the weather is hot outside, the surface must be covered with film or wet burlap and regularly watered to prevent too rapid evaporation of moisture. Sudden drying leads to the appearance of shrinkage cracks that can permeate the entire monolith. Concrete gains its full design strength only after 28 days, and until that moment, it is extremely undesirable to load the structure with heavy walls or floors. Patience at this stage is a virtue that will pay off with the reliability of your future home. One of the most common mistakes is ignoring the need for waterproofing and insulation of the foundation. Even the strongest concrete has a porous structure and is capable of absorbing moisture from the ground, which over time leads to the destruction of the reinforcement and the appearance of mold inside the premises. Modern bitumen mastics and roll materials allow for the creation of a reliable barrier in the path of water. Insulating the foundation with extruded polystyrene foam protects the soil under the house from freezing, which almost completely levels the forces of frost heaving. These measures significantly extend the service life of the building and make living in it much more comfortable and economical in terms of heating costs. Many people try to save money by refusing to install a drainage system around the foundation, considering it an unnecessary luxury. However, the diversion of storm and meltwater from the base of the house is a mandatory condition for its durability. Pipes laid at a slight slope in a layer of crushed stone and wrapped in filtering textile effectively collect excess moisture and direct it into special wells. Without such a system, even the highest quality waterproofing may not cope with the constant pressure of water, especially during periods of spring snowmelt. Remember that water is the main enemy of stone, and your task is to do everything possible to keep it as far as possible from your foundation. Concluding our review, I want to emphasize that building a foundation does not tolerate haste or an amateur approach. This is a complex engineering process where every detail matters, from the quality of the wire for tying reinforcement to the air temperature on the day of pouring. Mistakes made at this stage are often called hidden defects because they do not appear immediately but years later, when fixing them costs fabulous amounts of money. Do not be afraid to ask questions to the builders. Control every stage of the process and do not skimp on quality materials. After all, a foundation is not just concrete in the ground. It is the peace of mind of your family and confidence in tomorrow.